have seconds or coffee and dessert, please feel free to go up and get that. Okay? Okay, so we're ready to begin our program. But before we begin, some important instructions. I'm going to call up each student and their honorees. The student, of course, stands at the podium, and the teachers will stand to the left of the podium, with the elementary teacher standing on the X and the middle school and high school teachers after. After each student has spoken about each teacher, that teacher moves to the end of the line. When all of the teachers have been honored, everyone joins Christina in the corner for a picture. Okay? Helping me this evening is Mary Jo O'Hagan, Vice President of the School Board.
That away.
There you go, Vanna. Okay, so our first student honoree is Tara Bickerton. This evening, Tara is honoring Ms. Lynette O'Donnell, Mr. Joseph Tarantino, and Mr. Ronald Ventura.
The three teachers that I have chosen to recognize are Miss O'Donnell, Mr. Tarantino, and Mr. Ventura. From elementary school to middle school and all throughout my 4 years in the high school, each of these three have taught me lessons that I will value and use not only throughout my academic career, but for the rest of my life. When I was in 3rd grade at Meadow Elementary School, Miss O'Donnell taught me something that I will use for the rest of my life. Even though I was only 8 years old, this is when I learned how to deal with conflict and how important it was to stand up for myself. She helped me understand that some things were important and others were not, and how being an individual was the best way to always be happy. Once I reached high school, Miss O'Donnell and I reunited when she was an advisor for sports night and intramural night. It was then I realized that everything she had taught me 6 years earlier still helped me move forward in my life. By the time I got to 6th grade at Bolden Middle School, I already made my mind up as to my career path. I either wanted to be a professional dancer or a teacher. Now obviously 6th grade was still young to decide what I would do for the rest of my life, but after hearing about Mr. Tarantino's path to becoming a teacher, I knew that even if I chose to become a dancer or a teacher and wasn't happy, it was always possible to make a change. Now, a typical 12-year-old wouldn't usually notice things like this, but since I had wanted to possibly be a teacher in the future, I paid closer attention to certain things he said and he did. Just by the way he taught the class, you could tell he really enjoyed what he was doing, and even though he didn't start out as a teacher, it was what he was meant to do. He became a great mentor to me and actually made going to school fun, rather than something I did because I had to. Even now, I find myself going back to visit him from time to time, and you can see that he still inspires children the way he inspired me. During my sophomore year in high school was when I finally knew for sure that teaching was going to be in my future, and this was in no small part due to Mr. Ventura. Now, even though I had always wanted to be a teacher, it wasn't until that year I knew for sure that I would be a social studies teacher. Mr. Ventura not only shared my love for the subject, but also taught in a way that made even the most boring topics interesting. Even after 10th grade was over, Mr. Ventura still played an important part in my high school career. Recently, he helped me in the decision of which colleges I should apply to, and even after the application process, he helped me make my final decision. Even though he was only my teacher for a small portion of my time in high school, the things that he has taught me will benefit me forever. Each of these teachers has played an important part in not only my education, but in shaping the person I am today. So thank you, Ms. O'Donnell, Mr. Tarantino, and Mr. Ventura for all you guys have done for me.
5 out of 5.
Thank you. It's gonna be one of those evenings. Okay, I got it.
I don't think you're going to need that many.
Yeah, we'll take one over there.
Yes, take one over.
Thank you. We'll pull it up. Last year it was tearjerker the whole evening, right? Our next student honoree is Jenna Bowlby. The faculty honorees are Mrs. Kristen Neville, Ms. Carolyn Jimenez, and Mr. Ronald Ventura.
Hi. Okay, so my first is for Miss Neville, but she's actually Miss Healy to me, so. All right. You were my 5th grade teacher, but it's funny. I was actually supposed to have Miss Velati, but she left us for a higher position at Plaza. That's okay. And that's how you became my teacher. I remember at first the class was so sad to see her leave, but once we realized how awesome and nice you were, I don't think any of us cared. That sounded mean, I'm sorry. You were my teacher through one of the toughest years of my life. In August of 2005, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. In September, I had to begin school knowing my mom was homesick. To be honest, I didn't even want to go to school, but having you as a teacher made it a lot easier. When you found out about my home situation, you were so sincere about it. I remember some days if I walked into class and you could tell I was having a tough day, you would just let me put my head down or even try to get my mind off of it by putting a smile on my face. You were always there to comfort me and keep my 10-year-old mind sane. For you to come into your first year at Meadow and deal with the situation the way you did, I think that's inspiring. And thank you so much for everything you did. And by the way, I still remember the planet project I did in your class with Isabel and Lee, and I still remember that we made a Neptune national anthem and sang it for the whole class. And thank you for all the memories that I'll never forget. Miss Jimenez, I had you as my 6th grade social studies teacher. I even remember that I had you second period and I sat in the front row next to Shayna. I still remember your lessons on the Greek gods and the posters you had of them. I remember learning about Venus, the goddess of love. And that's exactly how you made the whole class say it. You made learning about social studies entertaining, and I will never forget your lessons. When I came to the middle school about a month ago to shoot the We Are Baldwin video and I saw you, I didn't think you would remember me. But then you introduced me to the kids in the office saying, "This is Jenna Bowlby. She was my star social studies student when she was in 6th grade." So I knew you remembered exactly who I was. That made me feel so special. One thing I don't think you realize is that you were the first teacher I ever had that made me want to become a teacher. Ever since I had you, I've always wanted to be a teacher, even when I thought I didn't. I changed my mind a couple of times naturally, but now that I'm going off to college this August, I'm pretty sure I'll be an educator just like you. And if I can educate kids any way that you can, I know I'll be just fine. Thanks for everything. Mr. Ventura, so you were my 10th grade global teacher. Yay, global! I remember freshman year when I met you and I immediately wanted to have you as a teacher. Before the end of freshman year, I went to my guidance counselor and requested to have you. She said to me, "You don't even have to request him because luckily you already have him." I was just so happy. You were one of the best teachers I've ever had. You were able to make a subject that most students don't like so fun. But don't worry, I'm a social studies girl at heart. You were my teacher through my toughest year of high school and probably one of the toughest years of my life. It's weird though, because it was also a tough year for you, but you never showed it. No matter what, you always had a smile on your face, especially when you were teaching. Even though I was going through a rough patch at home, being in your class allowed me to forget a lot about it. Also, you were always there for me if I needed someone to talk to. Thank you for helping me when I needed it. I'm not sure if I've ever met someone who's loved their job as much as you do. You're willing to help students out, whether it's for social studies help, Regents prep, or personal issues. You have an open door policy. Get it? China?
That's a good one.
Thanks.
Getting a 5 so far.
I still remember some of your lessons too. I remember the stories you would tell at the beginning of the period to help the class understand and connect the lesson to real life. I especially remember the story you told about how you forgot to give your girlfriend a gift for Valentine's Day and somehow connected that to social studies that day. You literally go above and beyond in order to teach your students social studies as well as life lessons. I'll never forget our random talks in your classroom or the social studies office about life and especially about social studies. You give me insight on my future and I take in every word you say. I will also never forget our coffee club, the signs I put all over your room, and the bracelets your daughter made me. Everything you have done for me is so greatly appreciated. If I become a teacher that is half as awesome as you are, then I know I'll be a really good educator. Thank you so much for everything, and don't worry, I'll be sure to come back and visit.
Donor love. Our next student honoree is Amanda Clemens. Amanda's faculty honorees are Deborah Reynes, Mr. Joseph Tarantino, and Mr. Ronald Ventura.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to start off by saying thank you for the honor of receiving this award tonight. I am so happy to have the opportunity to honor 3 of my teachers tonight because they were the ones who positively influenced me and guided me to the right direction of success. Now that I'm graduating from Baldwin Senior High School, I can only say positive things about my involvements in Baldwin, and part of these fond memories are because of being in Mrs. Reynes, Mr. Tarantino, and Mr. Ventura's classes. These 3 teachers envelop Baldwin's best and serve as exemplary teachers and people. They know how to balance work and play, in which learning was fun and class time was efficient. I did not only learn the curriculum in their classes, but I also learned about passion, kindness, dedication, patience, and work ethic, as I had great role models to look up to. Mrs. Reynes was my 5th grade teacher at Plaza. And as a 5th grader, you may not be aware, but you need a certain balance of nurturing because you are still in elementary school, and guided independence because you are heading to middle school next fall. Mrs. Reynes provided just that. With all our 5th grade events and fun activities in class, Mrs. Reynes still kept us students eager to learn and made us prepared for tests. After leaving her class, I was confident and ready to move on to the middle school and I appreciate the independence that she helped instill in me.
Now, whenever I visit Mrs. Reynes, she welcomes me with open arms and excitement to hear about high school and what I'm up to. The same enthusiasm greets me when I visit Mr. Tarantino, my 6th grade math teacher. A few of my friends and I visit him, and he remembers what activities each of us did in the middle school. For example, I played lacrosse in middle school as well as high school, and Mr. Tarantino always asks about the season and has even attended games to see his past students in action. Also, as a 6th grade teacher, he helped me have a smooth transition into the middle school. Mr. Tarantino had these super fun math Olympics, which everyone loved, and he also had brain teasers to kickstart the class, which got our minds moving and made us anticipate each and every lesson. Finally, Mr. Ventura was my global studies teacher, whose enthusiasm, excitement, and cheerful yet loud voice radiates through the classroom as well as the whole 300 building. Mr. Ventura showed me how interesting history really is and gave me an appreciation for knowing about the past and other cultures. Mr. Ventura is also very supportive as he attends games and works at various school events. And when I look like a pack mule with all my bags and sports equipment walking into school every day, Mr. Ventura always makes space in his room to keep my stuff that refuses to fit in a locker. And who could not resist joining along in Friday karaoke sessions? These are only a few examples of what makes these teachers so special and such positive role models. I realize it sounds cliche, but if I could stand in front of you all and list every great quality and every great story about Mrs. Reynes, Mr. Tarantino, and Mr. Ventura, we would be here all night, maybe even longer. So I'd like to conclude this with saying that every word of praise is well deserved by these 3 teachers, and I thank them for all that they have done for me to help me enjoy school and grow as a student and a person, and for making my school years unforgettable and bright. Thank you all for the opportunity to brag about these humble educators who are successful in their work, have genuine personalities, and guide their students in the same direction. Thank you.
Okay, so far we haven't needed these. Thank goodness, apparently Baldwin schools breed comedians also. So that's a good thing. Yeah. Great job. Great job. Okay. Okay, so just forgive me if I don't pronounce this name right, but our next student is Nafisa Brotherson, yes? Okay, very good. Come on up. And Nafisa's faculty honorees are Mrs. Tammy Fortunat, Mrs. Karen Barnes, and Mrs. Jennifer Raleigh.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nafisa Brotherson. First and foremost, I would like to thank Baldwin School District, the superintendent, Dr. James Mapes, our principal, Mrs. Norris, teachers and staff for allowing me to grow in such an outstanding environment. It is an absolute honor to be receiving this award tonight. My educational journey started at PS 114 in Brooklyn. After my younger brother was born, my family and I moved to Baldwin. I attended Grand Avenue Elementary School, and the first teacher I met there was Miss Fortunat in 2nd grade. I was a shy young lady who didn't speak very much. My first day was very nerve-wracking, but Mrs. Fortunat made me feel comfortable and at home. I was very wise for my age, but moved at a very slow pace, so Miss Fortunat gave me the nickname of Grandma. I sat in the front of the class and enjoyed the way she used games to teach. I remember one game where she would ask a question, and if we thought the answer was choice A, we would stand up. If the answer was choice B, we would stay seated. One day there was a question that was very challenging, and I ended up being the only student that stayed seated while everyone else stood up. I didn't want to be seen as the oddball in the class, but at the same time, I knew that the answer I'd chosen had to be correct. I hesitated, and although I felt weird being the only one sitting down, I stuck to my guns. It turned out that I had the correct answer. After class, Mrs. Fortunat said something that I will never forget. She told me, "Always be a leader, never a follower." And she told me that she was very proud of me. From that day on, I was never afraid to answer a question in her class, regardless of how many people had a different answer. Those words will stay with me forever, and I greatly appreciate you for supporting me and encouraging me during a time where I was unfamiliar with the school and felt out of place.
I'm gonna need this. I'm gonna be the first one.
Years went by, and I was finally in the 8th grade. I felt large because I was a middle school senior. I thought that year would be an absolute breeze with nothing but jokes and games until I met Mrs. Barnes. Mrs. Barnes is a spunky, no-nonsense teacher with an amazing sense of humor who makes her students know who's in charge. I'd have to admit that was one of the most challenging classes I have taken, but Mrs. Barnes helped me learn responsibility and prepared me for high school. Mrs. Barnes always told me, "Don't try to take the easy way out, and don't say you can't do something." When she gave me the look, I knew she wasn't playing. I needed that push. She stayed on top of me until graduation day, and I'm grateful that she did, because I probably would have slacked off and ended up still being in the 8th grade today. Thank you for everything you have done, and thank you for making me realize that hard work truly does pay off. Last, but certainly not least, Mrs. Raleigh. I've known Mrs. Raleigh since 2011, and she's helped me a tremendous amount. She has always been the type of person who puts others before herself and does everything she can to make sure her students succeed. She has an amazing personality. Aside from teaching me business management, Mrs. Raleigh has truly helped me prepare for college. Thanks to her, I have perfected my college resume, my work resume, and cover letter. I have been able to complete an internship at Northrop Grumman, as well as get into SUNY University at Albany with the help of her recommendations. She has helped me gain the confidence I need to do speeches such as this. Because of her, I've had opportunities of a lifetime. Anytime I needed someone to put in a good word for me, she was there with no problem. I know that I could depend on her to give me advice on absolutely anything. She has truly been a role model and a source of motivation for me throughout high school, and I'm very grateful and honored to have had you as a teacher. Lastly, I would like to say thank you again to the teachers I have acknowledged tonight. You have helped me become the young woman, not women, that I am today, and I will never forget you all for the lessons you have taught me. I will continue to strive for excellence in college and even after college. You aren't just teachers, you are life changers.
Thank you.
Our next student honoree is Jillian Dolan. Jillian's faculty honorees are Ms. Tony Henry, Mr. Philip Zerkely, and Mr. John Buglione.
Thank you. Can I just start by saying that earlier today I was in Mr. Buglione's sociology class, right? And he was just like, okay, Jillian, you know, you're going tonight, right? And I was just like, yeah. I'm totally blowing up a spot right now, too. And he was just like, so do you know the etiquettes for tonight? And I was just like, can you go over them with me and stuff? And so he did, and he was just like, with the end of it, like, he's just like, all right, well, but you don't have to be nervous. And I have to say, thank you for telling me that. And it did not work. I'm still nervous. But, so I'm going to start with Miss Henry. Miss Henry is your quintessential, strong, independent woman. She was tough on us fifth graders, every one of us, not just the good kids. But she cared about us too. I know all the girls looked up to her like a cool older sister. And one of my fondest memories was the time when she would just laugh at any of my jokes. So she came in once and she was like, gosh, why are all the foods that taste so good always the ones that are so bad for you? And then like fifth grade me was just like, because life isn't fair. And you just started like laughing. And Miss Henry has one of the most infectious laughs of anyone I know. And just over there, when I got to reunite with her since fifth grade for the first time, I was just smiling and laughing the whole time. And she really did put me at ease. And and your sense of humor just really, it added a lot of lightheartedness to all of your teaching style and what you've done. So thank you. All right, round two, Mr. Zirkle. Stand here. Mr. Z is a constant force of positive energy and encouragement. And I can tell you how important that is when you're an art teacher for an angsty, aloof, awkward group of middle schoolers. Oh, and I was one of them. When I met Mr. Zirkely in 6th grade stage crew and cartooning club, I recall showing him some of the drawings I've been doing at the time. Poorly drawn girls with angel wings, dogs with angel wings, couples kissing with angel wings. I look back at them and I don't know whether to cringe or to laugh, but Mr. Zirkely always thought it was the coolest stuff. Criticism can be helpful. It has its time and place. FYI, middle school is not the time and place. And Mr. Zirkely understood and respected that. He knew how to ease us out of our comfort zones without bruising our egos. He used to push me by trying to paint with pine cones and by using giant brushes on like really small canvases. It's crazy to like try to get a middle schooler to try to do that. And he even gave me my first opportunity to paint that I had ever had. It was this large gray stone fireplace for our 7th grade production of Beauty and the Beast. He took me aside and he taught me how to do the shadows and the highlights and to make it look three-dimensional from far away. I was so damn proud of that fireplace.
We still have that fireplace.
You really? It inspired me to take up painting for crew at the high school level in Into the Woods, Jekyll and Hyde, and most recently Once Upon a Mattress. Also, I need to say that when I finally tried being in the cast for once instead of just stage crew my junior year, I had a few commenters pretty much saying that it was good, like I did a good job, but I really should be, stick with painting, because that's where they needed me. But what I really appreciated is that Mr. Zirkely didn't say that. He had told me that he'd always wished he had the courage to do what I did. And just thank you for that, Mr. Z, because it meant a lot. Because when you're constantly, if you're good at something and you do it for a while, and then you try to branch out to do things that you don't usually do, people usually just, it's like a slap in the face. It's like, stick to what you're good at. Like, don't go and try to explore what other things interest you. But Mr. Zerkley just still pushed me with that too. I recently went back to the middle school art show. I've been to other districts, middle school and high school level. Let me tell you, no art department comes close to the quality of work that this art department puts out. And these are districts with better facilities than ours, with more funding for the arts. But we have something special in our district, and that's this man, whose enthusiasm for his talents, not only for art but for teaching, excite the kids in his class. Kids produce astonishing work, kids who didn't know they had it in them. And they come to the art show with their parents and want to introduce the teacher that helped them do it. And as far as my artistic development, I would be nowhere without Mr. Zerkley. Also, I appreciate that so much throughout my middle school experience, he actually thought I was cool. I'm so lucky to have had him as a teacher so early on, and since then have continued to know him as my mentor and friend. Mr. Zerkley, you have no idea how much you've helped me and continue to help me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Buglione, I'm sorry for blowing up your spot in the beginning of the speech. I had no other way to start it. I just want to start this one off with being a little selfish. I don't do very well in my academic subjects. Most of the time, it's just because I'm preoccupied with this, that, or the other thing. I've been called lazy. I've been called capable. I've been told I just don't apply myself. And last year, I was called bright. I had Mr. Buglione for AP US last year, but also as an advisor for Youth for Political Awareness and for sociology. In sociology, there's this concept known as the looking glass self. That is, one's self-concept or identity is formed based on what they believe what others think of them. Now, in a school setting, take failing grades, missing assignments, effort needs improvement on a progress report. Their identity becomes missing assignments and failure in the academic world. Despite how well I did in art, my academics and my inability to perform well in them had led me to believe that I was genuinely stupid. Maybe I was smart in elementary school, maybe I had showed all the signs of intelligence early on, but I must have lost it somewhere along the line. Ask people around these parts about Jillian. They know me as the artist, and that's it. But Mr. Buglione doesn't know me as the artist. He made a choice to know me as a history student, someone who's interested in politics, and a wannabe sociologist. He praised me in subjects I would have rarely received praise for. He thought I was bright, and now I had to prove it to him. And also I wanted to say that Mr. B is one of the most complex thinkers I've ever come across. Just the way he talks and the way he speaks about his lessons and the way he explains things, it's just ridiculous how intelligent. I wish I could sit him down and pick his brain for hours. No?
You become neurotic.
Mr. Buglione also gives each student a polite respect and dignity, no matter who they are or what their ability level is, which I think speaks volumes about him as a person. As long as someone's putting in that good faith effort, he's happy. And he has this way of coercing his students to do the work, to make them want to succeed, which he did for me too. I did all my YouTube assignments, I did all that in his class. And Mr. Buglione's class really created a place of stability for me. It was a place where I could go to participate in discussions and always be validated. He didn't just say I was bright, he truly made me believe it. His second period sociology class got me out of bed like nothing else could. I know I can still go to him when I'm having a problem with a class, with something at home, and I can always count on him to break down the sociology of it for me, of course, but more importantly, to listen to me with the utmost sympathy. Thank you, Mr. Bublin. And I just wanted to end it by saying that it breaks my heart that 99 teachers have their jobs on the line right now. To think, and looking around, that we only have 10 students here, or around that number, to choose 3 teachers that have impacted them beyond what you just learn in a curriculum, and how much teachers actually mean to someone as people. And to think that someone's Miss Henry, or Mr. Zerkly, or someone's Mr. Buglione could be one of those 99 teachers and may not have the opportunity to teach them in the future, just, that's what I was mourning when I found out that the budget didn't pass last night. And it makes me really appreciate the time that I had with the teachers, and that they affected me as much as they did. So, thank you.
Oh, man. Cut the tape. Okay, the budget thing gets me every time. Okay, the next student has to make me laugh, please. Well done. Okay, our next student honoree is Nicholas Kelleher. And Nicholas's faculty honorees are Mrs. Jackie Marrero, Ms. Claudia Rico, and Ms. Gladys Llanes.
Well, I don't know how to follow that speech, because that was... Damn it, Jillian. Okay. And let me just tell you, I've been in numerous amounts of musicals, plays, whatever you want to call them. They have many names here. And this is very different. I don't know how to speak in front of people, but I'll try, right? Yeah. We're all excellent here. Recognition of excellence. So tonight we are here to recognize the achievements and high level of excellence that many of us students have sought after through our years of education. However, I know it for a fact that my excellence as a Baldwin student would not be where it currently is had it not been for these 3 amazing women standing to my left. See, I told you it's going to be difficult. Or as Senor Llanes would say, a la izquierda. That'll give me a 5 in the Spanish AP, I know. You have all impacted my life so profoundly, and your great teachings have just impacted my being so much, and I can't thank you enough. High school, mostly middle school, has been very difficult for me as I was trying to find out who I was, and these 3, Mrs. Marrero, Ms. Rico, Senor Llanes, you have all taught me to love who I am. And that's the best gift anyone could ever teach me, to love who you are. So thank you. No tears, please. Okay, Mrs. Marrero, whenever I think of my experience at Plaza Elementary School, you're the first person I think of. Your laugh, your smile, when you talk about the Bronx, how my mom and you both grew up together and don't even know it. As a student in your 5th grade class, you established such a relationship with me as a student. You thought of me as a friend, as someone to talk about American Idol with, and as not just a student, you know. The relationship of mentor-mentee, you have just such a kind disposition, and I couldn't thank you enough for that. And it was just the special bond that we had that allowed me to come out of my shell a little bit more and act as an individualized student. You made me feel so proud to be who I was and still am. I don't think any words or anything else could possibly thank you for that. You gave me such confidence as a performer. When I would attain certain achievements, like when I got into 5th grade all-county chorus, you were so happy because every single student was from your class. We all felt, well, me personally, I thought I was your son because you just were so happy, jumping up and down, you know. And you were just so genuinely proud of me, and it made me feel so special, more than you could ever imagine. So thank you for always giving me that extra push as a student, and thank you for always making me feel like I mattered. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, middle school. Middle school, as you know, is the awkward time, you know, where we're all trying to find out who we are and what we want to be as people. So, I did not know what I wanted to do. I mean, I knew I was like, maybe I'll sing on stage, but I don't think I can sing on the Plaza Elementary School stage my whole life. So, I said, middle school, I'm going to try to find out who I am, what I want to do. So I decided to, you know, take some honors courses, see what would happen. So, and I found, sometimes I didn't know why I took them, but I'm glad I did, because I met Miss Rico, my 7th grade science teacher. I found a great sense of self-expression in myself in your presence. Miss Rico was the first teacher to create a sense of work ethic that I will never lose, hopefully. Miss Rico was quite the stickler when it came to doing my assignments, but she was also the first person to help me pick up the pieces whenever I felt defeated. I lost where I was.
Right there.
Yes. I thank Miss Rico for starting up my love for challenging myself in school and to set high standards that I know can be achieved. Miss Rico was also a huge supporter of me outside the classroom. I remember I missed school a lot in 7th grade because I had a lot of theater performances, you know, just trying to see what I could do with myself. And so I would come home every day, and my mom would be like, Nick, I just got off the phone with Miss Rico. I'd be like, oh God, what happened? Like, what did I miss? What test do I have to make up? She said, no, she's so proud of you. And just to come home and know that a teacher was proud of you for doing what you want it's the best feeling ever. So, I lost where I am again. So thank you, Ms. Rico, for teaching me that there is still time to pursue your dreams while trying to attain excellence in very difficult courses. Because even though it was 7th grade life science, it was like a college class with Ms. Rico. Well, for me at least. So thank you so much for teaching me that there is an equilibrium, that's a science term. Teaching me that there is an equilibrium between doing what you want and also trying to find out who you are as a person. So thank you. So, as I entered high school, I started to learn that the world is just a tad larger than I originally thought. And that there was so much going on around me that I had yet to discover. I can honestly thank Senora Gladys Yanes for opening up my eyes to the world around me. I entered Miss Yanes' class in 11th grade, and I can honestly say that my Spanish was pretty bad. But it didn't matter to her because I would always come into her class and she'd be like, oh, Nicolas, it's so great to see you. She was so big on teaching us students to love and appreciate the world around us. I finally began to learn that there was so much to be proud of with regards to my Hispanic. Yes, Hispanic. I am 25% Puerto Rican. I'm very proud of it.
Bravo. The best part.
I found that there was so much to be proud of concerning my nationality, and that I can use my kind of knowledge with Spanish to express my pride in such a profound way. I never really fully grasped my love of the language until I met this inspirational woman, a la izquierda. Now, I find it so much easier to speak to my Spanish-speaking grandparents, and sometimes they even let me order, like if we'll go to like a Spanish restaurant, it's like, do you know what? You learned a lot, you should order in Spanish. So I do, even if the person doesn't speak Spanish, I still do it. So I found that my thirst for knowledge of the international world has become increasingly stronger due to Senor Yanes. You've taught me the most out of any high school teacher. For real. And perhaps any teacher. And I thank you for teaching me about my passion and not just the textbook facts. And as I said, all these 3 teachers were so happy whenever I would achieve something. So I remember 4th period, I walked into Spanish, and it was like the day after we got class ranks, and I was like kind of happy. And so Senor Yanes said, "Oh, Nick, I forgot. Nicolás, what rank did you get?" And I said, "I got 6. And so she was like, "I knew I liked you for a reason." So, for some reason, that just always stuck with me. So, to conclude, my journey as a Baldwin School student has been made worthwhile due to you, all of you. And Aaron Copland, I have to include music in this because that's what I'm pursuing in college. Aaron Copland once said, "Now that all the learning's done, oh, who knows what will now begin." As my education in Baldwin comes to a close, I see my future possibilities to be endless because of you guys. Thank you for always believing in me, and thank you for making me proud to be who I am. Did I make you laugh?
You did, thank you. Thank you so much, Nicholas. That was great. Our next student honoree is Kajal Malik. Kajal. And Kajal's faculty honorees are Mrs. Joanne Mueller, Mr. Christopher Supios, and Mrs. Kathy Rita.
I just want to start off by saying that I'm really, really honored to get this award. I know it was like a big process with how they recommend students, and I'm just really glad that I was able to get several teachers to recommend me. I honestly don't think that I'm just that influential, I guess. I just always thought teachers were the one who always taught me things, but I guess it goes both ways. I just want to start off with Mrs. Mueller. She was my 5th grade teacher. I remember getting her as an assignment, and I know my brother had her as well, so I thought, oh, I'll get like special treatment. That's not how it works. She was really equal. She always she was engaging. She had really good projects, and she always just made it really simple for us to learn, and I really loved learning from her. I remember one of her projects, it was like the Civil War project. I absolutely hate history. I cannot stand it. But I remember I would just... Sorry. I remember I would go to class every day and like work really hard at coloring everything in and drawing. And I remember another project was a history project actually. She took my file and she showed the entire class. And I'm just really glad that she was able to like see something in me. I always just like went by school, like in elementary school, I always just went by thinking, well, I'll just do my work and go on. But with her, I felt like she supported me and believed in me. And she was one of the first teachers to tell me that herself. And she had so much confidence in me that I would do amazing things, and I really honestly believed it just because of her. She has pushed me to do my best, and she showed me that I need to believe in myself in order to accomplish anything. And most importantly, she never babied me. Like, I was 10 years old. Obviously, they shouldn't be mean to me or treat me like an adult, but I felt like I wasn't like a 4-year-old. She never hid things from me, and she always just talked to me normally, and I really liked that about her. She really helped me lay down the foundation for my middle school and high school years, and I'm really grateful for her to help me find a place to start. Mr. Supios. He was my English teacher. English, another subject that is not my favorite. I'm not the best speaker, I'm not the best writer, but his class, I was honestly really always shy. I thought, another subject I don't like, I'll just sit in the back and not talk. But I remember he ran this chess club in the middle school, and one day I thought, why not? So I forced one of my friends, Brittany, to come with me. I basically dragged her. She didn't want to go, and I'm glad that I went that day. That day, I played my first game of chess, and I lost to him in less than 5 moves. It was, I don't like losing, so I promised I'd come back and one day beat him. And the next time I came, I brought even more of my friends. And then after a while, we just started coming every week, and soon enough, his classroom became like a safe haven for us. It was just a place for us to grow together, and we'd always enjoy each other's company. We played chess sometimes. Most of the time, we just talked, hung out. We teased Mr. Supios about his amazing handwriting. It's so great, guys. He gave us a place to be ourselves, and he really helped me establish a group of friends at such a young age. Middle school really was the dark ages of my life, and I really didn't really have a set group of friends. Every year changed. I'd meet new people, and then I'd forget about them the next year. But that year, I finally was able to find my place with my friends. He was honestly the first teacher I felt really comfortable with, and he helped me realize the importance of that. Getting to know every teacher in my future classes became a goal for me after him. I felt my best in these classes when I was able to connect with my teachers and I got to know them. And before meeting him, I would go to school, and then I would just run out when the bell rang, and I wouldn't look back. I hated going to school. But in 7th grade, I started staying after school every day, and I would go to his classroom. I would bother him, I would tell stupid jokes about my family, and which he oddly thought were funny. And I used to be really shy before I met him, and he helped me really open up. And he also, when he came here, he gave me a card, and he actually wrote inside about how he didn't want to waste space talking about my amazing English assignments. But he also mentioned my friends and how he always enjoyed listening to our inside jokes and everything. I just wanted to tell you that to this day, it's still the same. Like Jillian and Drasana, we're all together. We still talk about you and your handwriting. And every year, we promise to ourselves that we're going to go bother you our last senior year. And we're going to finally play last game of chess and just finally get to say our goodbye before going off to college. Okay, Mrs. Rio. I have spent every year in my high school with Mrs. Rio. I met her in freshman biology, and I assumed I wouldn't see her after. I thought, next year, oh well, same thing again, different teachers. But then I joined her club, Academons, the one she always talked about in class. She seriously talked about it every single day. She would tell us to come all the time. So I joined sophomore year. She always reminded me there was too much testosterone. It was all boys. So I thought, why not? My friend Rosanna, she joined first, and I followed her. And then we were the 2 girls in our club. And Mrs. Rio was really happy with us. In her club, in high school, I found a home. It was similar to Mr. Supios' classroom, but with her, it actually just felt like home. Her club was where I learned the importance of teamwork. I met wonderful upperclassmen in this class and in this club, and she always tried to get the few girls who came involved. She was easygoing and nice, and I never felt like an outsider in her club. Every Monday, I would go to her room after school and then want to hang out and talk and answer trivia questions about history and science and all these random topics about quantum physics or something. And she never expected us to know everything. She never wanted us to get every answer right. Her main goal was for us to have fun and never let shyness get in the way of enjoying ourselves. I've grown in that club, especially as a leader. Over the years, I worked my way up. I became vice president of her team for Quiz Bowl, and I'm really glad because I know she recommended me, and I'm really, really glad for that. In her club, I've become more comfortable with myself and more social just because of her. 2 years I spent with her in academics, and now this year I was back in her classroom for senior year. My admiration for this woman has only grown. She is absolutely wonderful. Seeing her teach biology this year was just amazingly captivating. The passion she has for what she teaches, it shines through everything, even the most boring topics, in my opinion at least, like cell respiration. If there was ever a question, like we would go off topic in class all the time, someone would just ask a random question, and she'd always just talk to us back. She wouldn't get mad at us. She'd try her best to answer the question to the best of her knowledge, and I thought that was really admirable. Her calm attitude in academia is also present in her classes, and she always tries her best to talk to everyone. She loves what she does, and I really hope that I can also find something that I love to do. One of my favorite things about Mrs. Rio is definitely her talks in class. While we do learn biology most of the time, we sometimes break off, and she finds a life lesson to share with us. And it's just always so nice to connect with her because she's so open with us and so honest. Last year, I remember I was so stuck between choosing my AP Sciences. I thought, oh, I have to take this one, I can't take that one. And I was so close to not choosing biology, but I'm really happy that I changed my mind and chose her class. Because spending another year in her classroom has honestly been such a privilege, and I'm so happy that I've had it. She is one of the most influential people in my life as of right now, and I feel so blessed to have met her and connected with her. Every year in high school, everything was different, and everything changed, and every teacher, they would go on by, and I thought I'd never care to talk to them again. But she was always there. I could always go to her, and I could always talk to her. All of my teachers have found a way to impact me for these three, but these three in particular have stood out the most. Thank you so much for coming, and I'm so happy that you've been a part of my life and influenced me directly and even indirectly in all the ways.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Our next student honoree is Trisana Mosafia. Is she here this evening? Oh, hi. Hi, Trisana. And Trisana's faculty honorees are Mrs. Roni Madden, Mr. Christopher Supios, and Mr. George Drakatos.
So, first of all, I'd just really like to say I'm really honored to be here and to have the opportunity to thank some of my teachers, because a lot of the times, I've gone through school and I've enjoyed a lot of it, but it's hard to just go up to a teacher after class and be like, wow, I really liked that lesson, or I really had a good time this year, without coming off as being snide or sarcastic, especially if you're me and everything that comes out of your mouth sounds like you're joking. So I just wanted to say thank you, because without you guys, I would be a completely different person, and you've all changed me for the better. All right. Mrs. Madden.
We're just going to move this back a little bit. You have an echo.
Okay.
It's good.
While there were several factors that contributed to my love of learning and my motivation to reach my full potential, it was your classes that first exposed me to diverse reading material, and that gave me insight into the enjoyment and freedom that books could bring me. The fact that you took our classwork so seriously made it all the more meaningful when you were there to lead insight and give advice, and it made me feel as though, despite only being in first grade, I could be viewed as a maturing and responsible student. Further, in a society that seems like it's always telling children to be quiet, especially for young girls. The emphasis you placed on allowing students to read to their peers made me feel like my voice, education, and opinions truly mattered. Thank you for giving me the courage to speak my mind and for reinforcing the ambitions that have been behind all of my future endeavors. Mr. Supios, I don't know where to begin in showing my gratitude for the fact that I had you not only as a teacher for English, but as someone who could challenge me in my extracurricular pursuits and give me advice that would affect me long past 7th grade. As a teacher, you were tireless in helping me and my classmates improve. Your steadfast refusal to give good grades easily actually made me feel like any good comment I received on a paper, a poem, or any assignment meant something, rather than like making me feel doubtful that the praise was something you said without thinking to every student. Despite the difficulty of your class and the occasional frustration it caused, you remain one of the most approachable, down-to-earth teachers I've ever had. Hearing that you only got into speech and debate due to some deal with your parents, like to let you play soccer, and that you weren't impervious to the SAT when it came to analogies, made it easier for me to stop getting nervous about my faults and to start facing them with my best effort. These were lessons that were integral also to my high school career because the entire transition was made easier since I didn't feel entitled to achievements or prompted to rest on my laurels. But thankfully, not all of your lessons were so serious. I joined the chess club with the intention of spending more time with my friends, but you refused to let me socialize all the time unless I would at least attempt to play a game of chess. Although I never actually got good at it, every new match stretched me a little bit further, and the fact that you had enough faith in me to make me continue made the effort worthwhile. This belief was most meaningful once you started giving me advice on creative writing. It was one of the first times I felt like I could be completely truthful and to explore my identity. And thank you for the myriad opportunities you gave me to be proud of who I am. Mr. Dracatos, having you as my teacher in both 10th and 11th grade was transformative. Even though I never had bad opinions about math, I must admit that I was starting to lose confidence in my ability in it. I remember thinking on the first day of class that you were the only teacher who said, "Have a nice day," and actually sounded like you meant it. But I really had no idea what you thought of me as a student until I asked if taking statistics the following year would be in my best interest. I'm so glad that I didn't take what I felt was the safe route at the time, because your class was one of the best experiences I've ever had. Perhaps more important than the individual lessons was the newfound confidence and passion I was prompted to show in math, a field that I'd shied away from for fear of being inadequate. Your advice and assistance has been integral to my high school experience. You took me from fears about the notorious worst regions to applying to schools that before seemed like the subject of far-off dreams, but never reality. Having you as a recommender for college was one of the greatest honors imaginable, and I have no idea what I would have done without your guidance and unwavering confidence. Thank you for everything.
Great job, Trisana. Thank you. Our next student honoree is Jason Roman. And Jason's faculty honorees are Mrs. Roni Madden, Mrs. Linda Bertonetti, and Mr. George Rakatos.
Well, thank you everyone for coming here tonight. I'm extremely honored to be up here, and I'm only here because of the magnificent job that Baldwin has done for me by providing the best possible teachers to give me the greatest education I could receive. There are many teachers, besides the three up here right now, who deserve this honor just as much. I'd like to thank Mr. Dracatos, Ms. Bertinetti, Ms. Madden for everything they've done for me. And as Ms. Madden and Ms. Bertinetti are retired, Mr. Scannell, Dr. Mapes, Ms. Norris, raise. Big time. So I started in Baldwin in kindergarten. I've been here every year since then. In middle school, as a little first grader, I was nervous as I was now going to school for a full day instead of just in the mornings. I would be there for lunch instead of going home, and another 3 hours of school. What kid really wants that? I can proudly say, though, that first grade was a great year, all thanks to Mrs. Madden. Up until the time she was my first grade teacher, I never really knew what it was like to be or feel smart. She was the first teacher I ever had who made me feel smart and who made me value learning. She saw something in me, a desire to learn more, that she nurtured and helped grow and started me on a track to end up where I am right now. The first grade was over 10 years ago, and Mom, I really hope you're starting to feel old at this point.
What about me?
You too, Mrs. Madden. I mean, when I went to elementary school, she was working there. Now she's retired. Even though it was 10 years ago, I still somehow managed to have one really important memory. So I'll always remember how one day we were writing in our journals about the moon, and everybody else, they wrote half a page about it, and that was all right at the time. But for some reason, Ms. Madden just kept pushing me to keep going, and ended up writing a full page in my journal. And you laugh now because we have to write 3-page essays in 40 minutes in high school. But at the time, that was a big thing. And Ms. Madden was so proud that instead of playing with everybody else and spending my time messing around with the other kids, I actually wrote in my journal. So she recognized me in front of the class. She gave me some candy and sent my journal home with me to show my mom the work that I had done in class that day. So after that, most of the other kids started writing more and more in their journals as I set the standard. Mrs. Madden made me feel smart because for the first time, I had set the standard that other kids wanted to reach. This always helped me later on as I have continually tried my best to be the best and to never settle for less than that. I have to thank Mrs. Madden for making me feel smart and making me realize how much learning mattered. To summarize, I'm going to use her words that she signed in a book she gave me for the holidays in 2001, which is, 12 years ago? Jason, this is a wonderful award-winning book. The story is super. I hope you enjoy it and keep reading. Happy holidays to you and your family. Love, Mrs. Madden. One teacher crying, one's not here. I'll find a way. Everyone do that. All right. So, middle school was a very intimidating time. It's your first time on your own with more than one teacher and the ability to roam the hallways. It was intimidating, especially for me, being the very, very tiny 6th grader I was. I found solace in my social studies teacher, Mrs. Bertinetti, who unfortunately couldn't make it tonight. But Mrs. Bertinetti, not Bert and Ernie, as she used to always joke with us, made me appreciate so much more than what went on in the classroom. She helped me value the relationships with others. There were times I had problems with friends, but she was there each time to help us patch it up, and showed me how much of a difference I can make in the world. Inside the classroom, she was one of the funniest teachers I've had, by teaching us how to spell Djibouti, which I actually used when writing the speech, talking about how crazy Cleopatra was, helping me get so many extra credit points on tests, I thought I was set for the rest of middle school. Seriously, I had so much extra credit, she would tell me that, oh yeah, you can graduate tomorrow, no problem. I remember how we used to have Fun Day Fridays, where we did something fun each Friday pertaining to history. Mrs. Bertinetti helped me get rid of the idea that history was just boring stories about dead old guys, but was actually fascinating and helped give us a glimpse into our roots and how far we've come to get where we are today. Outside of the classroom, Mrs. Bertinetti made me feel like a leader through programs like the Rachel's Challenge program. I remember distinctly the walk the line activity we did one day, and I was assigned to help monitor the rowdy group of 8th graders for the activity. They really didn't take it seriously, so when we had a chance to talk about it, I felt inspired by her teaching to go up and speak about it. Afterwards, when I talked to her about it, she told me how scared she was for me, being the tiny 6th grader, and I mean like this tall maybe? I don't know. Standing up to the big 8th graders, but how proud she was of me for taking a stand and standing up for what I believed in. I learned from Mrs. Bertinetti how I should always stand up for what I believe in, and how I should always be myself. In 7th grade, I still talked frequently with Miss Bertinetti, and I was devastated when she retired that year because I felt like I lost a teacher who I was able to look up to and yet talk to about almost anything. Mrs. Bertinetti, I have to thank you for all of this because without you, I never could have become the leader I am today. Last up is high school. High school is definitely an interesting time for me. For Mr. Drakatos, I bet he probably regrets teaching Algebra 2 and Trigonometry my sophomore year. The year started out normal. However, as it went on, I started making jokes about what we learned in computer math, and calling him Mr. Garcia, Mr. Garcados. Honestly, the list of names goes on. I can't even remember most of them, just to mess with him. As a teacher, Mr. Drakatos is as good as it gets. Ms. Norris, Dr. Mapes, Mr. Scannell. He inspired me to love math again, and instantly became my favorite subject, to the point where I took his AP statistics class the year after, so I'd be taking 2 periods a day of math, instead of 1 like normal people. In statistics, Mr. Drakatos helped me love math more, helped us come up with some amazing inside jokes. We have the win face, the lose face. She went to Harvard when talking about Natalie Portman, who at the time I was in love with, still a little bit, but. And that's just to name a few. He put up with me consistently pestering him, talking, and telling ridiculously unfunny jokes. The greatest thing about Mr. Yeah, I know. The greatest thing about Mr. Drakatos is that he never got annoyed or upset with me, and always treated me with respect. I remember how Mr. Drakatos helped me with the pre-calculus project by me taking pictures of him yelling at me and pretending to push me down the stairs. And I really appreciated it, as it helped me get a high grade on the project. Pretending, don't worry.
Keyword.
From day 1 of Algebra 2 Trig, I knew Mr. Drakatos was a teacher who truly cared about his students, which became more and more evident as I had him for longer. Only a teacher who really cares about his students comes into school at 6 o'clock at night until 8 o'clock to help us review for the AP test. The greatest thing about Mr. Drakatos is that he showed me it's okay to be yourself no matter what anyone else thinks. I was never afraid to be myself in his classes, which he probably regrets letting me do, or even now when he isn't my teacher, but I still find time to talk to him. Every day. He has posts outside my 7th period class. He walks away hoping that once the bell rings, I'm not there, and comes back and sees me and gets face palm every day.
FaceTime. Very important.
Besides this, Mr. Drakatos helped me understand who I really am. I felt okay to openly admit I really like math. I felt like I was good at it. It takes a great inspiration to get me to give up my lunch period to take a class, but Mr. Drakatos did it so simply without me even noticing it. The moment I realized how good a teacher Mr. Drakatos was during the Algebra 2 Trig Regents. I remember being nervous for it, considering how hard I heard it was from people who had taken it before. When it came to taking the test, I just kept thinking to myself, when is this going to get hard? And when I reached the end, I realized that it was all easy because Mr. Drakatos had put so much effort into making sure we were prepared, and I did my best to make sure it wasn't in vain. As high school is ending and I'm preparing for college, I keep thinking about some of the things I'm going to miss about high school. Each time I think about this, at the top of my list is Mr. Drakatos, because I realize that to me, Mr. Drakatos is more than a teacher. He's one of my greatest sources of inspiration and motivation. He's one of my biggest supporters in all my endeavors, who wants the best things for me, and he's also the one and only teacher I can call a friend. Thank you, Mr. Drakatos, for being my motivation, my inspiration, my supporter, and my friend. You have greatly helped make high school something I will fondly look back on, and whenever I think of these times, I will always remember your classes as some of the best times I've had in high school. I would one more time like to thank the 3 teachers up here for all they have done for me throughout my entire time here in Baldwin. I'd also like to thank again all of the teachers that I've had over the past 13-ish years from kindergarten to now, some of whom are here tonight. And Miss Raleigh, I told you I'd embarrass you, so yes, Miss Raleigh, she's my internship teacher. I only received this award because the teachers chose me for it. But without the teachers here in Baldwin, I never would have been able to be who I am today, so that I would receive this award. I am truly honored to be here. One more time, I'd like to thank all of my teachers for preparing me for whatever the future has, and for giving me the best chance possible to have a bright and successful future.
Great job, Jason. Thank you. Last but not least, we call up student honoree Derek Turhan. And Derek's faculty honorees are Mr. Michael Yosha, Mrs. Linda Bertinetti, and Mr. John Buglio.
Last, right? No pressure at all from anyone, especially now. Okay. I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight to honor these great educators and for giving me the chance to let you know how they impacted my life. And just a quick summary of what I just did. I really didn't want this to be so much like a speech, because that's way too regimented and way too constricting to what these educators have given me. So it's kind of little anecdotal things that I've picked up from them. The setting is a brightly lit classroom. A bearded man towers over me, greeting each person who came through the door. This man is Mr. Yosha. I was a very unexcitable youth, but over the course of that year, the spark had been made. Mr. Yosha had succeeded where no teacher had before. He made me love learning. He showed me some of the coolest things that I had ever seen. For example, he had these little creatures in formaldehyde jars that he kept in the closet, which I'm pretty sure is kind of illegal now, but it's a good thing he's retired. He also had these posters of the universe and the stars, and when he retired, he actually gave those to me, so those are actually hanging up in my room. I lost my place too. It seemed like my love for learning was as infinite as those stars on my wall. And from there, I went to middle school. It was 7th period, and I walked into a room of faces that I'd never seen before. There was a woman standing in the front of the room who bragged that she could stand on her head and that she had been a cheerleader for the New York Jets. I remember thinking to myself that, is this really what middle school is like? This lady is nuts. And I'm kind of glad that she isn't here to see that, because I get a really bad death stare, but don't worry. I've never crammed so much history into my head before. A lasting memory that I have of Ms. Bertinetti's class was when I came in late. This was the first time that I ever been late to a class before. We were taking our daily 5-minute quiz, something that I would see again. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I was told that I couldn't take it because it was late. And at that very moment, you know that your teacher is invested in your education when you feel like that your world is over because you couldn't take that one quiz. It showed me that I had to push myself to achieve what I knew I could. And I was devastated to learn that after our class, Ms. Bertinetti would retire. With that in mind, I hoped that I could carry on and share the life and knowledge that Mrs. Bertinetti brought into the classroom. I am now in high school, and that couldn't have come at a worse time. I was in the absolute worst state of mind for the first 2 years of my high school career. But I heard from a friend about this guy who taught AP US, and I thought to myself, this guy sounds kind of weird. No offense, Mr. Buglio. This is a testimonial from another student who has graduated, so you can't fail him. There isn't enough I could say about Mr. Buglione and how he made his way from that guy I saw rushing through the hallway to, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the most influential educator I have had thus far, and perhaps I will ever have. One thing is for sure, Mr. Buglione is the new yardstick. For those of you who take AP US, you know how Mr. Buglione ends the year. In my class, he played that really epic music from 2001: A Space Odyssey, you know, when the Earth is coming around and there's lights and it's really, really heartwarming. And needless to say, I kind of cried a little bit, kind of like Jason too. We both cried together. And it was in that moment that I realized that these people that have been educating me thus far through my high school career don't just do it for the paycheck at the end of the month, and they don't just do it so that they can get benefits later on. It's so that they can see the transition from September to June, and they can see how you grow as an individual. And Mr. Buglione really played a big part in that, as well as Mr. Yosh and Miss Linda Bertinetti. I just want to thank you all, with every ounce of my being, for making me look to the stars, giving me the confidence to reach for them, and the ability to socially analyze any alien life I might encounter. Thank you all very much for this wonderful opportunity. And I'd like to also thank the educators that couldn't be here, but hopefully they'll be up here with the next year's class. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our ceremony. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Thank you to the students. They're incredible. And thank you to the faculty honorees. Have a good evening. Excuse me. The 10 students. Could I have the 10 students up front for a last picture, please, all together? Thank you.